Hello, how are you? I hope you're doing alright. I'm Ness, and this is a pilot episode to a podcast series of videos bouncing between games, technology, and philosophy, and any other topic really that I find interesting enough to trigger a dialogue or a reflection. Since this is the pilot episode, I'm going for the low hanging fruit, which is games. Games have probably been the biggest, if not the most significant piece in the puzzle that was my personal development. One of my fondest memories as a child is playing Super Mario Bros. With my mom on our Famiclone console for hours. And I also remember learning what frustration was thanks to that one level with the big jump and the narrow platform. You know the one. Later in life, I would go to computer cafes to play PC games with school friends or just by myself. I would make new friends with the other kids that were playing Battlefield 1942, Counter-Strike 1.5, Call of Duty 2, etc. It wasn't difficult to socialize with someone after exchanging bullets in a game for 2 hours and then taking a break to have a snack, a soda, and then keep going at it. I would befriend the owners just because of how often they would see me there. They would allow me free time on the computers just for running small errands from time to time. I met people that later became my inner circle of friends, best friends, or brothers from another mother. I would even skip school just to go to the cafes and have fun playing games alone, online, or on the local network with the rest of the kids that were also skipping school that day. Sometime later, I would get my own PC at home, and a couple of years after that, an internet connection. I was discovering what a graphics processing unit was, what RAM meant, and how many games I couldn't play because my computer was basically a potato with some wiring attached and a fan. Back then, my friends and we would buy games from a store that would sell pirated copies. Imagine my surprise after buying a copy of Age of Empires 2 just to find out that my PC was not capable of running it. But not all was lost. I had a game I could run online, Worms Armageddon. I had to learn how to connect to an alternate version of WormNet, I think at the time. That was the name of the net for online play, in order to see lobbies and connect with other people. And man, I was grinding that game day in, day out. There were some crazy game modes when you played Worms online. It wasn't just the basic turn-based combat. There were new maps with new rules, new movement text, the whole 9 yards. And I was committed. I learned the new lingo, I downloaded the maps to practice offline, and I was also learning English through movies to help me communicate with the other players through the in-game chat. And yes, English is not my first language, as you probably have guessed by now. So I didn't have the vocabulary to interact with people online. I only knew the basics from school, and I couldn't use much of that when it comes to games. Hello, GG, sorry, I'm new, how do you play this? Bye. That was most of my communication in the beginning. But with the repetition of playing each day, reading what other people were saying and what they did afterwards, I was improving, both in the game and in my language skills. I even made friends with names I would see often around the time that I was playing. Since there was no Discord or Steam, a community for these pirated games, your gaming community was basically limited to forums or just being online around the same time as the people you were friends with were, and that was it. I would later learn about Xfire, and that was a game changer, literally. But I don't want to digress even more on that. I wanted to explain why I consider the games play such an important role in my personal growth, and this is why. I was able to do so much more than just kill time playing games. I was learning how to communicate in a new language with all the benefits that it implies. I was making friends. I was learning how playing online worked for non-purchase games. And I became savvy in these things. I was curious, and that pushed me to keep learning. I ended up being the one that usually would find a fix for my friends whenever they had issues with their games, either for connectivity to the private servers or just troubleshooting in general. It's difficult for me to imagine now the kind of person I would be today if I hadn't had that Famiclone to spark my interest in games, and if I hadn't had my mom playing with me to learn what co-op gaming feels like at such an early age, to encourage me to go out there and find communities to play with. And so games have had a particular reach with me that I can only assume is the same kind of reach that people feel books have with them, or movies, or any other interest for that matter. And probably it's because of that many people appreciate games for more than just entertainment, for more than the art form that they are, but rather for the impact that they have on us with their characters, their stories, and their lines. And this is what I wanted to talk about on this pilot episode. Lines that leave the game with you and you carry along for the ride. There are too many games that you probably remember an iconic line or a bunch of them from, maybe a full dialogue or a full speech. But in this case, I want to talk about my favorite first-person shooter game from 2007, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. By the way, feel free to share what your iconic lines or speeches from games are down in the comments. I'm sure you all know a few. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare 2007 was the first game I remember putting over 600 hours into of pure multiplayer gameplay, and thanks to Xfire for keeping track for as long as you did. I would spend 8 hours or more each day just playing for the fun of it. The vanilla version on private servers, later on modded servers that had zombie game modes or new maps, the pro mod, etc. COD 4 was my jam. I went through the Duke Nukem games, the Unreal Tournament 2004, Quake, but COD 4 blew my mind. Medal of Honor Allied Assault from 2002 had the same impact, but not to the same extent. I don't really remember playing Medal of Honor's multiplayer nearly as much as I did with COD 4, but the Omaha Beach mission was peak cinema at the time, tough to match. But back to COD. I remember when the game was available in our local pirated game store, one of my friends bought it because I couldn't play it at the time on my shitty PC. So we went to his house, we bought some snacks, some sodas, and played the entire campaign from start to finish in one afternoon. We would trade places between missions or when one of us was having a hard time beating the level. And man, that was a great time that we had. Going through the missions, unfolding the story, experiencing the ending with my friend, that was something. That was my first encounter with the game, and it solidified my appreciation for characters, plot, and voice acting in games. Medal of Honor Allied Assault felt like playing a movie, I won't take that away from it, but COD's 4 campaign was a better movie in my eyes, probably because of the modern setting, the difference in production value, the obvious improvements that come along with that, but the dialogues, the script, the delivery, the people behind the game giving their voices and their talent to make these 3D models come to life, that was the moment I felt a great amount of respect for all of them across all games that I had played and that I would play in the following years. Now, to reminisce on the iconic lines of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare 2007, what a better place to start than with the intro cinematic to the game. 50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town. I wouldn't be doing the intro justice if I didn't play it out, so here you go. But man, what a line to begin a cinematic with.
50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town.
Our so-called leaders prostituted us to the West, destroyed our culture, our economies, our honor.
U.S. Marines stationed on high alert were given the order to invade the small
Just as they lay waste to our country, we shall lay waste to theirs.
You think this will stop the bloodshed?
Вы все равно скоро сдохнете.
No wonder it sticks to memory after so many years. And you gotta love how people have turned that into a meme whenever they express how the player base for a particular game has diminished. 50,000 people used to play this game. Now it's a ghost town. Now, ignore the cinematic for a moment. The audio alone is enough to get one hyped to jump into the game and start shooting. Now, let's continue with the tutorial segment. If you played it, you know, this is where we get the classic
Switching to your pistol is always faster than reloading.
delivered by the character Gas, voiced by Craig Fairbrass. And then the always funny,
Nice! Your fruit killing skills are remarkable.
while the latter lacks the importance of the former, it isn't forgotten by any means, and it's been referenced in games afterwards, either by the games themselves or the players. But the switching to your pistol is always faster than reloading might sound obvious. To me it was gospel. Maybe I was doing it unconsciously because it makes sense to use your secondary when you ran out of bullets for your primary. But after hearing the line, it stuck and reinforced the habit. After being done with the tutorial for the keybinds, we go meet the man himself, Captain Price, voiced by Billy Murray. Not Bill Murray, Billy Murray. In my opinion, one of the names that should be in the pantheon of game voice actors, with the likes of David Hayter for Solid Snake in the Metal Gear Solid games, Michael Ironside for Sam Fisher in the Splinter Cell games, and this is a random mention, but I have to mention Liam O'Brien for the Illidan Stormrage performance in the Burning Crusade cinematic intro for World of Warcraft, and of course the whole cast of Critical Role, Matt Mercer, Ashley Johnson, Laura Bailey, etc. They're great. And with Price, we get the iconic
What the hell kind of name is Soap, eh? How'd a muppet like you pass selection?
probably not a line that comes to mind often, but that lives rent-free in my head, and probably for you as well. Now all of this has the bittersweet feeling revisiting these lines when one has played through the games already, and not just for the nostalgia of pulling our strings for the character development across the games, but also for ourselves. Just thinking about the stuff we were going through at the time when we were playing this for the first time. It's like, that one word or memory that would trigger a certain smell on your nose or a certain flavor in your mouth all of a sudden. But let's move to the first proper mission in the campaign. And I have to say, I love when games take part of dialogue and turn it into the name of the mission. I think if not all games, most of them did that, but I could be wrong. It's simple, but I appreciate it. And in this case,
Rules of engagement, sir. Crew expendable.
Crew Expendable has two lines that I always remember. One, because I believe it's an obvious 1986 Aliens reference said by Gas.
I like to keep this for close encounters. Too right, mate.
When in the movie it is said by Corporal Hicks when he says,
I'd like to keep this handy for close encounter.
also the fact that the mission itself is called Crew Expendable, which, if you're a fan of the movie, as I am, it's a secret directive from Weyland Yutani in the 1979 Alien movie regarding the Nostromo's crew. The second line comes from Price. Man, I don't know what it is. It could be the intensity of the moment when the ship gets hit and water starts flooding it. Maybe it's this sentiment of no man left behind. Or could be anything else, but hearing Price saying that phrase pumps me up. And on a side note, it's also similar to the feeling that I get when in Modern Warfare 2, Colonel Shepard says,
Get up, Private Al! Rangers lead the way! Move!
I would love to hear what your favorite lines, dialogues, or speeches from games are, or what are those iconic moments that stick with you even after so long, and why do you think that is? That's my approach here, to talk about games and what they give us, the players, and how we take it along with us moving forward. And not just into any other game, but into everyday life too. I've always been of the mind that games are not that different from movies or books. And if they can have messages or lessons, games can too. But this is my perspective. Would you share yours? See you next time. Like I said at the beginning, this is a pilot test, so any feedback is appreciated. If you have suggestions for future episodes, please let me know. I would like for this to be a catalyst of dialogue and reflection more than a series of essays, and for that, I need you. Thank you for watching.